We're here with Will Cronkrite, a historian and a legend in his own right. Now, I see your book says NASCAR Rednecks. Now, how did you come up with the name NASCAR Redneck?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but a long time ago, an unfortunate accident in my hometown. I moved south and went to work for NASCAR. My first race was actually the Indy 500 in 1970, and I just got to working around people, and I tried to promote the term redneck because I liked being a redneck. I liked being around rednecks, and they were the salt of the earth. They're Bible-believing, gun-toting race fans, and I identified that. And in my first book, the NASCAR Redneck book, the only job I've ever been fired from was Die Guard in Daytona Beach, and I was surprised by that because we'd built a car that sat on the pole for the Daytona 500, the Firecracker 400. In between there, we set a world's record with a Rockingham pit crew contest. And unloading the car on Monday morning or the day after the race in the Firecracker 400, the owner of Die Guard's brother came up and just said, "We don't need you anymore. We're going to go in a different direction." And as he walked off, he made some sort of a comment about being a redneck. And I just turned around, looked at him, and I said, "I just believe I'll take that." So I'm going to be a redneck, but I'm hesitate to do this in public, but I don't always share the fact I was actually born 40 miles west of Detroit.
Well, now your history and your experience, you've done a lot. Crew chief, car chief. Tell us who all you have worked for or have worked for you.
Well, I noticed from writing this book, I guess I could take a minute to share with you. Almost a year ago today, I was inducted into the Michigan Motorsports Hall of Fame. So I had to go to Michigan, obviously, because I was from Michigan. And my family attended the award ceremony, and they brought me a basket full of pictures that I'd not seen before. And that showed me how many different kind of cars I built, and those accumulation of pictures that I acquired. It dawned on me that I was in NASCAR for maybe 26 or 27 years, but there was an 11-year span in which I worked with or for 9 people who are now in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. You don't realize that at the time, but when Ricky got installed, or I guess inducted, I just started looking back. And I got my start, like I said, I worked at Indy for 1 year, and then I went to work at Nichols Engineering, where I was working, building chassis components for the Pontiacs that David Pearson was driving. And then I went to work for Benny Parsons as a crew member and a front tire changer, and then I went to work for Cecil Gordon. And then Mario Rossi hired me and threw me right in the middle of the Alabama gang down in Hueytown, Alabama. I was Donnie Allison's car chief. Then I started my own business. And then while I was doing my own business, I was working at Tom Pistone's and Ralph Moody. And Humpy Wheeler, who was a big contributor to my career, gave us the opportunity to be Janet Guthrie's first team. So I was a car chief on Janet Guthrie's car. The next year, again, Humpy Wheeler put me together with Al Rudd Sr., and I was Ricky Rudd's crew chief in 1977, and we won Rookie of the Year. And then my biggest break was in 78 when, again, Humpy Wheeler hooked me up with Dale Earnhardt. And I was Dale Earnhardt's first crew chief and car owner for his first consecutive races. After that, I built a sportsman car for Mark Martin that he did really well with, set a new track record at Rockingham, beat Donnie Allison's old record. And he did well, so he gave me the opportunity to build his first Winston Cup car. And that car, I think people understand, in his first 4 races, he sat on the pole twice. I'm pretty proud of that. And then I did a lot of work for Bill Elliott the year he won the $1 million. To win the $1 million, you had to win 3 out of 4 events. The race, I guess in Daytona, we restored that car. It's now on display in the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn. The car he won at Talladega with, we restored, and it's in the Motorsports Hall of Fame in Talladega. And then the car he actually won the $1 million in at Darlington, we restored that car, and it's on display in the what's the track where I just told you? Darlington. It's in the Darlington Museum. And so I've just had the opportunity to work with a lot of folks. Right after I wrote the book, Dale Jr. bought a book and then had me on the Dale Jr. download, and that I didn't work with him or for him, but boy, he sure made a big jump start for my writing career, and I appreciate that.
Now, you've got a lot of stories to tell. Is there any one particular story that kind of stands out, that kind of comes into your mind a lot?
Well, the one I enjoy telling the most, and one of the stories in my first book was called My Introduction to Ironhead, and it was a day that Dale Sr. came down and we fit the seat in my car. And during that time, there was this little blonde-haired boy standing in the front seat of his pickup truck, and he had his hands hung over this half rolled down window, and he stayed there the whole time. We were there 3 or 4 hours, and every once in a while Dale would go out and wave at him, ask him if he needed anything, and nothing. And the boy never made a sound. And when it come time to go, we were moving stuff out of the shop into Dale's truck to go home, and he went up to the door and he opened up this door and he said, "Damn it, boy, looks like you spilled your drink." And he was acting kind of aggravated. And then he saw me bringing some parts up, and he kind of calmed down a little bit. But I opened the door, and I said, "Dale, I can smell the difference between pee and Pepsi, and that's not Pepsi." That young blonde boy had sort of soiled his trousers, and it was Dale Jr. And I told him that before we were on the download show, and he just laughed vociferously. He thought that was very funny. But I didn't write about it. And this is probably the first time I've said it out loud in public. So.
Now, you have some books. Where can people get your books?
Well, there's a website. The first name of the first book was I Was a NASCAR Redneck. So I have a website called NASCARredneck.com. And if you go there, you can see this book, you can see my new book, and then I wrote another book about 1856 about a couple young boys that got lost in the Pennsylvania mountains, and they're all available there. They're also available on eBay and Amazon.
Okay. You've got postcards, and you do autograph sessions just as this?
Yes, sir, on a regular basis. I'm very fortunate. I've worked for some good people, and a lot of people here lately in my career really looking out for me. I get invited to a lot of these things. We go to Mount Airy for a racers reunion. I'll be at the Stocks for Tots event coming up, I think later this month or in December. I get invited for speeches. I go to a place every year in Salina, Ohio, and give a talk for the people that are in a Voers Compact Touring Series, their awards banquet. And they treat me well. A very, very good organization. I'm proud to be associated with those fellows.
Now, do you have a website or anything?
That NASCARredneck.com. And as a matter of fact, if you go there, there's copies of the table of contents and a slideshow of all the pictures. And there's a lot of pictures in both books. There's a little slideshow. You kind of get a taste of what you be in for if you acquire a book.
Well, guys, Will Cronkrite, he's a historian, but also an icon in NASCAR from the early days, from Dale Sr. and Dale Jr., some stories on there. So, Will, we appreciate your contribution to racing.
I appreciate you taking time with me today. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Our pleasure.